whole bunch of folks got used to see me live without a care in the world the last 5 months. Well, here's how I can afford to do that. In today's video, we're going to be installing a sump pump. This is probably a pretty common problem for some folks, but this might be a side of this problem that you're not used to seeing. There's a lot of shallow clay in this area, so the water doesn't drain really well. You can see lots of standing water in and around the house. Yesterday, I created this hole underneath the crawl space, and you can see I used a concrete saw to cut out the square, and then I used the jackhammer to bust through the rest of the concrete because it was 4 inches thick. Then I just shoveled out the debris in a Home Depot bucket. Now, this foundation wall is actually in pretty good shape, but as you saw, that standing water is constantly pressing against this, trying to find a way through the path of least resistance. It takes forever to drain, and so what happens is it actually leaks into this crawl space, and overnight you can see eventually it fills up this hole quite a bit. Now, in a perfect world, I'd like to use a sump basin like this, but I can't fit it through the floor joist, I can't fit it through the crawl space, so we're going to have to go with something smaller, like this Home Depot bucket. Now, the problem is, yes, the pump fits in a basin like this, but you want the pump to cycle as infrequently as possible. So the bigger the basin, the less often the pump has to turn off and on, off and on, off and on. Now, the other thing I'm concerned about is water getting underneath this bucket and forcing it up. That's known as buoyancy force. The force of water pushing up on that bucket is going to be proportional to the volume of water that's being displaced by the bucket. To counteract that force, I'm anchoring the bucket on 4 points to the concrete slab. Without it, the bucket floats above where I want it to be. The other thing I'm doing is pouring Quikrete around the bucket exactly like you do with the fence post. You pour this dry, just add water. Now keep in mind, there's a big difference between the concrete you throw down a hole, it's got a bunch of rocks in it, compared to the cement that you finish with, it's a lot smoother, what you're used to seeing. Since it's such a small area, I can mix my finishing cement with just a drill. We'll just let this sit up overnight, come back tomorrow, see what it looks like. Okay, we're back. It's the next day. Concrete's dry, got the sump pump in place, and the way we're going to make this pump's job as easy as possible is to run the pipe straight up to its high point and then let gravity take care of the rest. Let it run downhill out to where we're going to connect to the next drain. I'm also going to add a check valve to the discharge line to keep water from flowing back the wrong way. I can't squeeze this with one hand, but you can see how this works. Here's what the rest of that drain pipe looks like. To get outside the house, we took out this cinder block face and replaced it. This is just PVC painted black, cut a hole in the right spot. The sump pump's going to discharge to one of the storm drain downspouts. I just had to make a slight adjustment here, cut it off, and that's where we're going to fit the pipe. Now, you never want to pump against trapped air, so I am going to put a vent here. This allows air to get into the drain, but keeps large objects out. And what do you know? It actually works. Flushes just like a toilet. Check out my page for more home improvement tips. I've got 100 of these videos.